Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Women Today.
Days for Girls International was founded in 2008. They make reusable fabric sanitary wear kits and distribute them in developing countries, and they teach feminine hygiene. So Days for Girls was started by a lady called Celeste Mergens. She volunteered in Kenya, in a village in Nairobi. She basically wondered what they were doing about feminine hygiene products, and she contacted the person who ran the orphanage, and he said they just stay in their rooms. They just sit on cardboard. Often no one will bring them, unless someone brings them food, they won't eat for that period of time. And the particular orphanage she was at, there had been post-election violence, so the population had swelled from 400 to 1,400, and there was no access to feminine hygiene products. So she thought, what can we do? This needs to change. It's not ideal. The girls are missing school. And so Days for Girls began.
We totally take this for granted, don't we, that we can just nip down the corner shop and, sort of get a pack of pads and it's all very clinical and it's all very clean, you know exactly where they've come from. Problem is, of course, in communities like that, not only are these things not available, as you're just saying, but the attitude towards girls that are on their cycle is quite terrifying, isn't it? They're seen in a really bad way. It's like a dirty thing.
It's crazy. There is such a taboo, whether it's for cultural or religious reasons. There's very little education surrounding it, and so it becomes a very scary experience. It can get very dangerous. And in Nepal in particular, there's a practice called Shaupadi, and it was outlawed in 2005, but in 2011, studies showed that around 95% of the population was still practicing this, and it involves when a girl is on her cycle, she'll go into a small hut. There'll be no heat, no ventilation really. She'll have sort of very little contact with anyone, no natural light, and so it's basically like sensory deprivation. And this can happen after childbirth as well. So after the traumatic experience of getting your first period or having a baby, you're then sent to this hut. A few of the women, when I was in Nepal, they spoke about it. And while we were in Nepal, there were 2 cases in the news where girls died in the huts. One had lit a fire and then she'd suffocated. And so it's an awful practice, but it's a very hard one to police because you can't police every mountain. Traditions, they die hard. So it still happens in a lot of places, which is awful.
It's that notion as well, I suppose, of how it's going to affect them as women and what they think about their gender, because, they're sort of being told that to be a woman is almost wrong, and how do they then view themselves when they are on their monthly cycle?
If they haven't had the education, it does become a very hush-hush kind of situation. Mothers won't talk to their daughters about it, and so if you have this very scary thing happening to you that you have to hide and you feel like you'll get in trouble if somebody finds out, that's very scary. It becomes very embarrassing, and so women are kept in this subservient place. The men don't understand, the men don't want to talk about it, in turn the women don't, and that just creates like a cycle of fear really. And the more understanding that we can sort of gain with men especially and women, and teach them that this is something to be really proud of. If we didn't have periods, then we couldn't have babies, there wouldn't be people, and that's one of their slogans: no periods, no people. Comparing the stories, we did a little speak around when we were in Nepal, comparing stories of what we'd experienced and what those women had experienced was like vastly different. We had like parties. There was a Latina girl in our group, so she'd had like this big party and people had got presents, and the trip coordinator Sarah, she'd got this special bit of jewellery from her grandma and a letter about how it was her power time, and ours were like really positive experiences, and theirs was so negative, which was a shame. But what it has done is has inspired them, if they have daughters, to teach them about what's happening to their bodies and to teach them that it's okay. And actually it's quite an amazing thing because it's the potential for life.
Just tell us how you actually got involved then with Days for Girls.
So there was a Days for Girls session, I think run by Trinity Church at Mother T's in Laxey, and I was sort of present at this event and talking to the girl about it, and I thought, wow, I've never actually thought about that, and what you do if you can't go to the shop, and you can't just click a button and order online, and what do you do if you have that, and if you don't have any education about what's happening? And so I sort of went on the website and I researched and I had a look, and I saw they were doing expeditions to various places, and there was one to Africa, but I missed that, so I thought, right, Nepal's come up, I'm going to go to Nepal. My mum was like fabulous, and she funded it for me. I thought, what an adventure, and I want to travel, but I want to do something while I'm there. I'm not much of a sightseer, so I thought this will be amazing. And I'd gone through a bit of a change, and I thought, I'll throw myself into this situation where I know no one. I was the only kind of British person there, everyone else was American or Australian, and that was fantastic. You can read a lot about a charity or a foundation, but when you actually see what they do, they work so hard, and usually on very little funds, and it's incredible. It creates such a bond, and you just meet some amazing people. And one of the women I met in Nepal, she invited me to Cambodia last year with her, and so I went and I met with her, and we hadn't seen each other for a year, and we'd only met on this trip, and it was incredible. She does Days for Girls pretty much full time. Yeah, just to see what the women do and the benefit that it has to their lives, and how they're changing their children's lives. It makes my heart so happy. It's like,
because it's the knock-on effect, isn't it? Because like you were saying, that the problem is, of course, especially in some of these places where they do just sort of, it says on their website here that they're often isolated to cattle sheds, like you said, or small huts during the period. So they're missing school, missing education. Therefore, sort of they're not educated to an extent that they can potentially get out and do different forms of work that could potentially bring money in for the family, that could sort of create independence for them. So the knock-on effects are vast, aren't they?
They are. If a lot of studies have shown, if the girls don't stay in school, then they'll marry younger and they'll have babies younger, and then that's them kind of locked in. There's not really a lot of potential for any education beyond that. But so the longer they can be kept in school and the more school that they can attend, the knock-on effect is they could change the future of their country in one generation, really. They're gaining, 5 days a month of school back, and that makes an incredible difference. Then they don't fall behind boys. And obviously women have a very different thinking pattern and strategy to men. So it's important that we have our input and those girls have their input. They can change a country, and they deserve that chance. They deserve every chance to do that. And that's what this project can do. Yeah, so we were at the centre, then we did distributions around and about Kathmandu, and then later in the trip we went to a place called Darding, which is a really, really poor district, and Darding Basie was where we were, and that was to work with a single women's group who their husbands had died or left them, and so they wanted to set up a micro enterprise to make the kits and distribute them within their community. So that was really cool. So we got to see sort of a lot of different places. We went up to Chitwan, where there's a big national park, did a distribution there. So we were right up in the mountains.
Wow.
On the way to Chitwan, we got stuck for about 3 hours, I think, in a mountain pass because half of it had fallen down.
I have to ask, what when you did go into the actual sort of villages to talk to them about sort of education and about the kits, how did the men react to you being there?
The men they were fine that we were there, because we were sort of quite a big group, and we were linked up with people who had links within the village. There was a charity, Medical Mercy Canada, and they'd built a centre for the single women. But the men wouldn't be around for any of the talking, maybe some introductions, but then they would leave because it's sort of inappropriate, or they didn't want. Although we weren't embarrassed, the Nepali women were embarrassed, and so it would have been sort of very upsetting for them to talk about it in front of the men.
How has it been? Because obviously Days for Girls has been going for a little while now, and how has this sort of ongoing effect been? So have they had a sort of resounding positive sort of effect with regards to the attitudes towards the women in the different places that they have turned up?
I think so. I think as it's gone on, they've reached, I think most recently, up to 1 million women and girls in countries have received kits, which is like absolutely incredible. When you've got these groups of women together and doing something very different, it's very exciting for everybody around. They want to know what's going on. There's lots of visitors coming, what's happening. And at the most recent Days for Girls Nepal University session that they did, they went out into the town and they had a little set up and a stall, and which is pretty incredible because that would have been unheard of a while ago. And there were these beautiful pictures of men like holding up these kits and looking at them really quizzically. And
wow, that is progress, isn't it?
It's fabulous. And there's there's always little videos popping up of men in India who've seen a problem, or they've seen Days for Girls and they've seen these reusable kits and they're like, right, okay, we need to make some sanitary towels. There's this guy who's known as the Period Man, and he makes his own sanitary towels and then sells them within the village, and so,
very enterprising of him as well.
Yeah, good corner the market, really.
Yeah, and again, like we were saying, that's the sort of thing that on this side of the world we could do with being more open about it. It sounds like they're ahead of the game.
Yes, yeah, they're actually quite proactive men, because I know a lot of men who are just like, oh, periods, no thank you, and stay away, she's going to be crazy, and that's not really the case for a lot of women. And understanding it just makes for a kind of a better experience, really. It's just nice to be able to talk about it and mention it and share with other women. And what Days for Girls does, I found, is creates that conversation. It creates the link into talking about it. When I did the talk at Noah Bakehouse after the Women's March, quite a few men said they really enjoyed it and they weren't aware of quite a lot of the information that had been shared. So that was brilliant.
And if anyone has heard this and been moved by it, which I'm sure a lot of people have, is there some way that we can support Days for Girls?
Oh, of course. So if you go on the website, there's options to just donate. You can start a chapter or team. There's a pattern to download. So if you want to try and make the kits, you can link up with other chapters through the website to find, if you want to just buy supplies and send it to them, fabric and the waterproof PUL and whatnot. You can become an ambassador for Days for Girls. There's a little course you can take. That means that you're able to teach the information to other women. Just ensures you have the facts. There is actually a Days for Girls University now. There's one in Nepal, and there's one due to be set up in Ghana, I think, this year. So you can go and attend and meet with the women. And yeah, there's plenty of ways you can get involved. It's a really great project for schools to do if they're looking for an international thing, and it's just fantastic, and every little helps. Even if you just donate £10, we'll buy a kit for a girl, and in that you've given her 2 to 4 years of education back. So
absolutely brilliant. We have no idea, do we? We really don't. We have it so easy on this side of the world. We do. Jenny, thank you so much for being with us again. It's lovely to speak to you.
Sure.
Women Today. Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.